Okay, and then when I'm finished, I just hit stop broadcast, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh? Are you sitting up there? Huh?
I'm going to turn you around.
Yeah, let me see the beautiful people.
Mm. Okay, we have a very tight schedule today, so I have that it's 8:01, so we're going to get started. I know there's still a lot of people checking out of the hotel, and they'll slowly roll in. So what we have is we are live now. We are broadcasting live. This is being recorded, and it will be on our YouTube channel. And it's actually on our YouTube channel right now, but you don't have to go there. You can just simply watch it from here. And if there's people who come in late and they miss the beginning, tell them no worries because it's recorded, that you can go back in and you can go ahead and rewind and watch the sections that you missed. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it back over to Ian, and he's going to lead us for the next hour, teaching us about work habits of the digital natives and different tools that we could possibly use. So help me welcome Ian.
Good morning, everybody. How's our audio doing? I love that we still have the decorations up. And it's got to be a glorious sight sitting here in the morning staring at my gigantic Ming the Merciless head on the video screen in front of you. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is, as we did yesterday, I want to talk about of what we're doing here. So what's beautiful about all this is that yesterday I was able to be there face-to-face, and now we're using the tools that we're talking about, so I'm video conferencing in right after we spent some time yesterday talking to each other. So now what I want you to consider is, as you're thinking about work process, what do we gain and what do we lose by me not being there? You know, I mean, there are some limitations, there are some challenges due to the technology. There are the Q&A session we had yesterday after the main session. We talked about, you know, there are certain affordances of the tool that will either give us opportunities or challenges depending on the design of the tool. So think about that today, not only the message, you know, that I'm trying to present here, but also the tools that we're using and how that, you know, gives us certain opportunities or challenges. What I also would like to do is I'd like to skip over to the resources that we have. All the stuff is on the website, so we can take a look at it. And without further ado, I'm going to do a screen share. So what I'm doing is I'm going to showing you what's on my computer screen right now. I'm going right to the website that Eric set up. And the reason is the two documents that I'd like you to take a look at is, one, the back channel from yesterday, but also if you scroll down the Saturday presentation, Work Habits of the Digital Native, you can see, and what we'll do is we'll see as people click in. Right now, Anonymous Buffalo is there. I think that's the site that Julie added before. But basically, this will be our PowerPoint for today. You have access to the behind the scenes, so you can see what I see. I presented full screen. We'll see people dive in. Let's see if people are joining the back channel. Yep. So we have the Anonymous 9 cat coming in. Squirrel's back. Squirrel, let's be appropriate today. So we have our PowerPoint. We have our back channel. In the back channel, if you have questions, comments, concerns, by all means, you can edit this document. I know that we had a couple people yesterday trying to figure out how to get in and edit. Go ahead and edit. But also, while we're talking to you, and you all look lovely, by the way, but I can see you. So by all means, come on up, ask a question, grab Julie, grab Eric, grab somebody, and ask me the question right away. So we have the PowerPoint is there. So far, 2 people are in it. We have the back channel. There's a lot of links on there. A couple of the things I want to share, and then we'll get right into it. Today we're going to do a deep dive into some tools that you could and should be using. And we're going to talk about a model that I developed with a colleague to figure out how to use technology in the classroom. I have a feeling you're going to like what we have to talk about today, and as with the stuff that we talked about yesterday and today, keep in mind that this is the beginning of an ongoing discussion. Okay? As an organization, you have people coming in over the next couple months and the remaining years to talk about how we scale up. This is the beginning of a lot of this discussion, and in honest truth, this is something that you've been working on as an organization. So as people pop in, we have the PowerPoint, we have the back channel. All of this is linked from the website that Eric created. So right before we get started, on the back channel, you'll notice I'll talk about this ORMS, ORMS, MOOC stuff in a couple minutes. Down here it says the Digital Text and Tools Online Repository. That'll bring you to my website, but most importantly, that'll bring you to this site here. This is over the past couple years, I've been developing with colleagues and also with my students. We've been building and indexing and archive resources that are open and free for teachers to use. Yesterday, a lot of you said that you wanted support and you wanted some help in making this stuff happen in your classroom, but also personally. I share everything on my blog, but I also share everything on this website as well. So here you'll see a lot of different stuff. You'll see classroom resources. That's where my students share their lesson plans that use technology. There's Creative Commons materials. There's a lot of different online resources, open education resources that we use, print resources. The fun stuff is down here in tech tutorials. This may or may not be of interest to you. So as I go around and I present on technology, and as my students go and present on technology, we have a lot of materials and resources put together. What I wanted to do is create a spot that we archive and index all of these. So for example, today we'll talk a little bit about Evernote, and yesterday we talked about Evernote. Well, the sessions I've done on Evernote in years past are all here. So at any point, you know, yesterday we mentioned that, you know, we go to these sessions and we see a great tool and we want to go back, but we need time to go back and look at it. Well, here's that opportunity. So here's my session on Evernote from a couple years ago, Mass Newlit Institute. Here's the skills and strategies I used to use Evernote, and then at the bottom is a screencast of me doing my session. So if one day you miss me and my stale jokes and my monotone delivery, you can go back to the YouTube channel and you can watch my session on Evernote. So all of that is there. This is all built into the Text and Tools site. This is there. It's free. It will always be there. If you want to join in and you want to add materials to the site, by all means, the more the merrier. This is an open educational resource. It's meant to be a living, so please use it. please go in and add to it if you want to. It's always there for you. So once again, the Saturday presentation is here. We have the back channel document. The back channel document up top. We have questions and content, text and tools. Anonymous Hippo already changed it to text and tolds, but that's okay. So let's get into this. So here is our PowerPoint for today. You see a couple people are in. So what I wanted to talk about today is this notion of the digital native. And I mentioned to the Q&A group yesterday that I really wish that Mark Prensky never created this digital natives moniker, because I think it set back education about 10, 15 years. There's this mindset that because I was born in a certain time period that I'm more predisposed to the use of technologies than others. You know, there's a mindset among educators, there's a mindset, you know, in administration and in superintendents and principals that, well, the younger teachers get it, and the older teachers don't get it. And I think that's problematic, and for the most part, it's incorrect. I mentioned yesterday I have a little digital native sitting upstairs right now. I think that yes, he is inundated and he swims in these texts and tools and he swims in this environment, but I don't think he's any more predisposed to the use of technology because of his born-on date. I think that he's probably a little more predisposed to technology because I'm his dad, but that's another talk for another day. So, as always, we have a tweetable summary. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about these 21st century skills. And, you know, everything is changing, but we have, and this came up yesterday in our Q&A session, we have the opportunity to empower ourselves and empower our students, and we need to do so. There's so much power involved in literacy, and we have an opportunity to empower, but also, as we talked about yesterday, we have an opportunity to advocate, and we really need to use the internet. I would urge you to use the internet as a way to advocate for students and for teachers in the use of literacy, in the use of technology in the classroom. So debate, I think it's a lot of baloney. I think it's a lot of hogwash. I think that the mindset is that because I was born on a certain date or a certain time, I'm predisposed to use technology. As we mentioned yesterday, with that same mentality, if I was born during the agricultural revolution, then I'd have a better chance, or I'd have a propensity to use a hoe or a plow or a rake. I think that there are differences, but I think that a lot of those differences might be in the words that we use, it's in the discourse systems. Those of you that are fans of Jim G, you know, we're talking about big D and little d, we're talking about methods and modes of communication. But I don't think that one group is more predisposed to another. I think it's just the internet is the dominant text of this generation, and our students are using it, and at times we do not. I think this also has dramatic changes for teaching and learning. As I mentioned a little bit yesterday, you know, my digital native that I have, he has expectations for the way he learns. He has expectations for the way that he interacts. You know, he had a hangout on air with his father yesterday to talk about the day and what he was doing. You know, he likes to game. He likes to get online and look at YouTube videos. He's probably a lot like you. He likes to go online and look at videos of cats and laugh and, you know, laugh hysterically. There's a couple videos of that, you know, that we like to enjoy online and check out. So he really learns multimodally. He learns through video, he learns through audio, he learns through pictures and games. But the challenge is that we have this mindset that they're born, they're digital natives and that we're not. We're digital immigrants. And that's problematic. The real trick here is that a lot of our students, they're not really digital natives. And by students, I'm speaking broadly. You know, I work with pre-service teachers, so there is this mindset that because of the age that they are, that they're more predisposed to this. I view this as that our students are technologically savvy, but they're not informationally savvy. I think they have the tools, I think they have the toys. I think our students, we have tablets, we have the computers, we have the phones. You know, these pictures are specifically picked. We're going into wearable technologies. This is that contact lens that we're talking about that will read your sugar levels. You know, we have our youngsters here with mobile devices. Our students are technologically savvy. They have the toys, they have the tools, but they're not really informationally savvy. They don't know what to do with them. And so that runs counterintuitive to this whole digital natives debate. So the real question is, how do we make sense of this? How do we use this? How do we use online tools to empower ourselves? How do we use it as a means to advocate? How do we use it as a means to allow our students to have a voice online? You know, one of the most incredible things that we can do as literacy educators is help students find their voice and develop identity. So how do we use the internet as a tool to make this happen and empower ourselves as well? So a couple of years ago, my colleague and I, Greg McVeary, we started trying to figure out how do we make sense of this, how do we make this happen in the classroom? Because there's too many ways to view technology and literacy interacting. There's too many ways that just gets too confusing. So what we sat down and what we did was we started to develop a model for using technology in the classroom. And we boiled it down to 3 areas. And these are areas that I think partner up nicely with what normally happens in our classroom. This builds off of what we talked about yesterday, where we use the internet as a text in our classroom. But also these partner up really nicely with the Mozilla Web Literacy Map that's starting up. Very quickly, I talked about the Web Literacy Map or the Web Lit skills that are starting. Mozilla is building a series of web literacies, and what they're trying to identify is if an individual is going to be web literate, what are the skills involved? So when we talk about a digital native and we talk about where we want our students to be or where we would like to be, that's what the Web Literacy Map is trying to. It's about 1.5 years old. I've been working on it since the very beginning, and what I've noticed, primarily because I've been nudging a little bit, is that the online research and media skills model, the ORMS model, with the WebLit model. So the nice thing is that honestly, Mozilla is going to call it exploring, building, and connecting using online tools. It partners up nicely with the ORMS model. So if we're following one, we're building up these web literacy skills and getting ourselves and our students ready for these 21st century skills. The only area that the ORMS model is really weak is coding. I think that coding is the future. Coding has direct parallels to writing and writing process. I'm trying to unpack that in my own life, in my own research, but that's another talk for another day. And I know that there's people in that room that have interests in coding and in writing. So let's take a look at the ORMS model, what it involves, and also some of the tools that you can use. Keep in mind that all of this stuff is linked over on the back channel. And what I want you to do is basically take a look at the model, think about what it means for you, and if it has any impact on you individually or collaboratively. And if any of this resonates with you, reach out at a later date and we'll have a discussion about it. Once again, the back channel is there for you. The Text and Tools website is here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can drop to all of this stuff is here on the back channel. So let's start diving in. So we've got 3 cornerstones to the ORMS model. Let me see if I can move this over. It doesn't want to play nice. So we have 3 cornerstones to the model, and basically each of the cornerstones is meant to support the other. So if I dive back here, we have online collaborative inquiry, online reading comprehension, online content construction. Online collaborative inquiry really is the most challenging and problematic, and that's why it's located up at the top, supported by the other 2. I'll try and make sense of that as we move along. But please understand there's a lot of research behind this. This is stuff that has guided a lot of our studies over the last couple years. There's a lot of pedagogy and classroom management behind this as well. One thing that we never really talk about in all these discussions about technology, classroom management is. I think that there are problems that exist as we move students to BYOD platforms. There's problems that exist as we move students to the cloud, and there's challenges that exist as we move to one-to-one laptops. And so I think that there's an opportunity for a lot of people to do research in classroom management and the use of technology. But let's do a deep dive now into what this means. First one I want to take a look at is online reading comprehension. This is work that I conducted with my colleagues at University of Connecticut, colleagues from Clemson and elsewhere. This is stuff that Julie Coiro has talked about, Jill Kastick, Lori Henry, Lisa Zielinski, Greg McVeary, and many other people, and Don Liu, that I haven't mentioned and won't mention here. And this is a lot of stuff that you've probably already seen. We talk about online reading comprehension as the skills, strategies, and dispositions needed to question, locate, evaluate, synthesize, and communicate information. Now, questioning a lot of times gets short shrift. Questioning is hugely problematic and hugely challenging. What we're referring to is, for the most part, do your students know what you're asking them? Do they know what the question is? Can they rephrase it? Locating can be locating information within a site, across, on a page. Evaluation, that was my whole dissertation. So there's challenges involved as we critically evaluate information. To me, though, and I just stated that evaluate is to me, synthesize is probably the biggest problem. How do we synthesize across informational sources? How do you synthesize from a print source to a multimodal source? How do you have students look across 2 websites or across a print document and a website and synthesize, tell you what they learned? How do you synthesize across a YouTube video and a print document and have students look across these documents, they're just forms of text, and tell you what they learned? So when we look at online reading comprehension, for me, is figuring out ways to help students push pause on what they're reading and learning. They need that metacognitive break. They need a chance to push pause, figure out what they learned. Some of the tools that I use to help students push pause, because a lot of online reading comprehension is searching and sifting. A lot of online reading comprehension is knowing what to ignore. We want to teach our students that there are certain parts of online information that are distractor information, and that as you search and sift, you want to ignore certain parts that you want to skip over. And many times in our classroom, we don't spend time teaching our students that they should figure out what to ignore. Most of the students, if we talk about digital natives, some of them come in hardwired knowing how to ignore our purposes. So let's talk about tools. Once again, this is a deep dive. There's much more work after this. Colleagues use in terms of online reading comprehension. Number 1 is Diigo. Is anybody in the room using Diigo? We got 4, 5. Yeah, Diigo is an incredible tool it just takes a lot of front-end work to get it up and rolling. But Diigo, for the most part, what you can do is you can highlight and annotate a website and then give your students the link or the key to that website, and they can view your annotations. So you're giving them a guided tour of what you find important in a website. Google Spreadsheets and Forms, to me, that's the sliced bread. Google Forms, you can make online worksheets and handouts. You can put up a website and have students leave reading logs, writing logs. Instead of, you can have students journal if you set it up the right way. So there's an opportunity to put worksheets and websites, handouts online, and there's also an opportunity to set them up to be self-grading. If you look at the back channel, I have links to a lot of the different pieces here. I also have a link to a class that I taught how to use Google Forms and spreadsheets. So I have materials here. I also have the lecture that I put together for my students. So if you really want to know how to use Google Forms and spreadsheets, all of the information is out there for you. Google Custom Search, for those of you that are in an elementary school, this is incredible. I've also used this with higher ed, so it runs the gamut. Google Custom Search, you can set up a custom search engine. You can set up a version of Google that will only search and index individual sites that you select. So some of us, when we lead students online, will give them a hot list or a web quest, but what we're missing in that is we're missing the questioning and the locating and the evaluating activities that are so important to online reading comprehension. Google Custom Search is you give students what looks like Google. They use it just like Google. They use keywords. They can rephrase and restructure their keywords, but they only are searching within the websites that you've identified. Very powerful tool, very easy to use. I cannot recommend it enough, especially for elementary populations. And then, like I talked about before, Evernote. Evernote is my multimodal brain. I put my links out there. My links are on my blog. But basically with Evernote, anything that I want to think or remember or do, I save in Evernote. I gave the example of I've started an Evernote notebook for my farmers co-op that we joined. I shared it with friends that are in the co-op. So any recipes that we see online, I save it and make sure that we all can access it. It's nice because it works on my phone, my tablet, web browser, anywhere I have to. So the first cornerstone is online reading comprehension. The second one that I want to talk about is online collaborative inquiry. And as I said before, this is up at the top because it's probably the most challenging, and you need the other two to support this one. Online collaborative inquiry is a group of local or global learners that are co-creating, co-constructing information. What this really looks like is what happens in a wiki. So if you have students that are researching together online and they are synthesizing information online, and if they're adding that information and revising and collaborating and co-constructing text, we view this as online collaborative inquiry. It's a terribly important skill. As we move online, we talked about this yesterday in the knowledge and the future of work piece from Intel, we need to co-construct text, we need to collaborate. What are the challenges that occur as we move from individual work to collaborative work? And this is where we try and build the skills in. So you have to use the informational text, you have to use the internet and other texts, but how do we collaborate and co-construct? Some tools that I use. I use Wikispaces a lot. I put links in the back channel to the tutorials on Wikispaces. I use Google Sites as well. I pretty much go back and forth between Wikispaces and Google Sites. A lot of teachers will ask me which is better. They're just different. There are different designs from one to the other. The real truth of the matter is that you need to just play with them and figure out what makes sense to you, because they're totally different. And I know that we don't have time to play, but if you're building a classroom website or a learning hub, you should take the time to figure out what works for you. Google Docs we've talked about, we're using. Here's our Google Doc right here. You know, it's an online collaborative document. It takes what Microsoft Word can do or Microsoft Office can do, and it adds that online secret sauce to let people collaborate. Google Groups we talked about in the Q&A session yesterday, a discussion or a threaded discussion for your classroom that you can lock down and make private, so you can teach your students how to read and write online and interact in a discussion. I use Google Groups for a lot of my discussions in my classes at the university. I know that my university pays a lot for Blackboard. I don't use any of it. I use only free online tools, and I use Google Groups for a lot of my discussions. Last but not least, blogging tools. There's EduBlogs. There's WordPress I use. I host my own WordPress site. Blogger is a great tool. But providing a chance for your students to blog is a powerful way for them to reflect online. A lot of times we hear the term blog and we don't really understand what it is or what we're looking for. A blog is just a journal. And we all know how important journal writing is. In my classroom, journal writing was almost a religious experience. You did not interrupt journal writing. A blog is just the online multimodal extension of journal writing, at least in my humble opinion. So providing opportunities for your students to get online and blog is a great activity, and I would urge all of you to blog as well. Openly reflect about what you're doing, openly reflect about what you're learning and decisions you're making. I harassed Julie on the way out yesterday and mentioned that, you know, I think as an organization you should have a couple voices that openly reflect about decisions that you're making. You know, as process, what are decisions you're making, what works and what doesn't work. The last piece I want to talk about is online content. And this was the crux of my dissertation. This is what gets me up and going in the morning. In the previous two pieces, online reading comprehension and online collaborative inquiry, to me, the thing that we were missing was my favorite part about teaching English language arts and teaching literacy, and that was the writing or the construction piece. I love having students create. I love having the opportunity to create. And I wanted to figure out an easy way to have students create and write using multimodal tools, using images, video, aesthetics, and the humanities. So online content construction, the researcher Techno Babel says that allows students to construct, recreate, or remix online texts. We're in a remix or a mashup culture. That's another talk for another day. But what we're talking about really here is you want students to encode and decode meaning through multimodal tools. You want them to look at the world, look at the internet, and make sense of it, and create it, or understand it, or recreate it using the internet as a text. So what we're really talking about here is giving students a voice. We're talking about creating identity. We're talking about recreating or we're talking about writing in online spaces. And there's a lot of opportunities. One of the best opportunities right now is the Connected Learning MOOC, week of the Connected Learning MOOC. It's a fun place to go online and learn. It's also a place to go online and lurk and see what other people are doing, and that's okay. So in terms of tools that I use, a couple major ones, Google Sites. We've used Google Sites a lot. This piece that Eric put together right here is in Google Sites. My text and tools site, that's in Google Sites. It's free. It's a free place to host a website. A lot of teachers, I recommend that you use Google Sites or Wikispaces for your classroom website, really, because a lot of our schools spend a lot of money hosting a web platform that you can have a classroom website, and we don't provide tutorials or resources. Whereas Google Sites and Wikispaces, among others, there's a lot of support online. I also mentioned yesterday, I think every single person in that room needs to know how to create screen captures and screencasts. The tools I use, yesterday I used Screencast-O-Matic. Screener is also a great tool. What we're talking about, and there's a link here to a class that I gave. I require my students in my program, and most it's all said and done, they value the opportunity. At least they say that to my face. I think that they have to create screen captures, which is grab an image of a website or grab an image of your computer and annotate that, or screencasts. And so on this page, I go through the tools that I use, and somewhere on here, maybe I'm fibbing, somewhere on here there is a video, and if it isn't, I'll add it, of me giving a lecture on how to use the tools. Oh, it's down below. So if I go to Screencast-O-Matic, the tool that I used yesterday, I give you a tutorial on how to use Screencast-O-Matic and how to go online and capture this. So what we're really talking about is creating screen captures or screencasts, creating images or videos that you can annotate and narrate to help. Once you have those online, you can build those up over time. So for those of you that want to flip the classroom, that's great. In order to flip the classroom, you have to have something to flip them to. So you have to have online content that you have created or curated that they can go use. So that's where the screen captures and the screencasts all come in. And the reason why I have all these materials here to show you online is that I capture everything. Whenever I do a talk, whenever I do a lecture, when I teach my students, I capture it. And I leave it online as a resource for later. Because I know the individuals I work with, and I know all of our lives get crazy, and some of us, we go to a session and we see a great tool that we want to use, but as the day goes on, we get exhausted, and we can't remember, we can't go back. We want to have an opportunity to go back to those lectures, to those lessons, and only find the specific part that we're interested in. And that's why I capture everything, that's why I put everything online. And that's why I urge all the people that I work with to do the same, because I want to learn from you. So SoundCloud, great tool. It's a social network for audio. SoundCloud, what I use it for is I create audio recordings of lectures and I leave it online for people to use. One of the coolest things I did with SoundCloud was I was involved in a poetry research project for NCTE where we used SoundCloud to have students record audio versions of their favorite poems, because we wanted students to focus on the narrative quality or the spoken word quality of the poetry that they loved, and then they would write their own poetry and they would record their poems in SoundCloud. Because I don't know how much you read online, but there's a lot of distracting information online, there's a lot of ads. We wanted students to just focus on the power of the human voice. We use SoundCloud to do that. Last but not least, Storify is a tool that I've been using a lot. I love Storify. I use Storify now in my grad classes. Storify is a way to go online and archive information and tell a story using online tools and social media. Storify definitely has a place in higher ed. I've also used Storify in middle school and in high school. The challenge with Storify is that you're using social media as a way to tell a story. So if a student can go online and see something that's inappropriate in social media, they can also see it in Storify. So this is a great tool, but it's a tool that you need to be aware of the consequences of the tool. So the nice thing about Storify, about something like plagiarism with your students, or you're talking about internet freedom, or you're talking about net neutrality is hot right now, you can go on Storify and see what others are saying about those topics and share it with your students. And I've also had students create Storify to archive learning over time. Great tool, powerful tool. I use it a lot. Has a lot of opportunities for teaching and learning in the classroom. So once again, this is the ORMS model, the Online Research and Media Skills model. It's online collaborative inquiry. That's students collaborating and co-constructing information. Online reading comprehension is questioning, locating, evaluating, synthesizing, and communicating information. Online content and construction part, because I like to write and create and play and construct and be creative, and that I want to give my kids an opportunity to write online informational text. My upcoming column in JAL, basically I talk about that we need to nudge our students and ourselves to write more information online. But this is a model, it pairs up nicely with the web literacy model. In our programs here at my university and in the state, what we do is we ask that our teachers, our pre-service teachers, our student teachers, in their lesson plans or in a unit plan, they identify which one of these strands they are addressing. And then they have to indicate how they are having students comprehend online text. So that's a lot of information. And I know that there's not enough time to comprehend all of the tools. So a couple of years ago, I made the decision to build the entire thing online. So I present week-long workshops on that model with colleagues. I go and give talks about it. I write about the model. And I think there's a lot of power involved in the model. But not everyone, I can't go speak to everyone. Everyone can come and work with me or sit in my classes, or we work together in workshops. So a couple years ago I decided, you know what? Online for free. Okay? And I've had a lot of friends and faculty ask why. I've had a lot of friends and faculty ask, why would you put this whole thing online for free? And the main reason is I think that there's a lot of problems and challenges in education. There's a lot of problems and challenges in our classroom. And there's a lot of problems and challenges not just locally but globally. So one of the nice things that I've had the opportunity to is once I publish this online, I've had colleagues come up and friends, and I even had people, I've had teachers from Africa get in touch, or Europe have an opportunity to figure out how to use technology in the classroom. Can we use your model? I say, of course, it's online. So enough chitter chatter. The model's here. I build an online class. So if any of this looks interesting to you, if you want an opportunity to play with it, let's say you want to go back to your building and you want to provide your own PD for your teachers or PD for yourself. The whole model is online, and it's open and it's available for you to use. If you like it, great. I will never know if you use it or not. You can reach out to me and say, hey, Ian, I used it, it's great. Or, hey, Ian, it's lousy, you should fix these parts. Or, Ian, you have spelling errors all over this. Hopefully I don't. But the model is out there for you to use and play with. If you have a building where you would like to test them, all in for that. I'm looking for opportunities to test it with real teachers. I use it with my students, but I want to see what it really looks like in a real building. So let's take a look at what this thing looks like. So this is all built in Google Sites, and everything that we just talked about is in this website. This is, some of you have there's that term MOOC that's running around. It stands for Massive Open Online Class, MOOC. It's really just an open educational resource. So I built Pretty Class Online. So on the front page, I have a lot of dialogue about what it is and who it's for and everything else you don't care about. But if you go to modules, I have built in here everything that I think you should be able to use and know. So I have online collaborative inquiry, online reading comprehension, and content construction already built in there. I also have one thing that is terribly important, at least per the discussions yesterday. Teach others how to use these tools. We need to create these multimodal tutorials, I call them. So I have a whole module on how to create multimodal tutorials. Last but not least, I have a whole module on digital identity. So let's take a look at what this involves. I'll go into online reading comprehension. So on the front page, I have a little video introducing you to what the module's about. I have learning outcome standards. I also have a pre-survey built in. This is Google Forms. I have a pre-survey built up. I have resources here on the left in Digging Deeper. Built into Digging Deeper, I have a quick 13-minute lecture on what online reading comprehension is. This is a screencast I created. It's a lecture from me on what is involved in online reading comprehension. And then below the video, below the lecture, I put the PowerPoint for online reading comprehension. In readings, I put links in there. So if you want to learn more about online reading comprehension, I am but voice. There are many voices involved in this choir. I have links going online to different pieces that I know and love that talk about online reading comprehension. I have a video gallery. So these are videos. Some of them are mine. Some of them are research that we conducted in the past. My videos aren't loading up right now. But I have different videos online that talk about online reading comprehension. And last but not least, this is something that we talked about yesterday in the Q&A session. If you were to open and online but also pay professional development, this is a possibility for you. So I built this whole MOOC, and I have these these are all open and online and free. But what I did is I said I want people to interact. I want them to engage with the content. So what I have is a biggest takeaway, so you can go respond in a Google Plus community. I have a reflection where you share your thoughts. And then what I use is you have different credential systems. If someone comes and does professional development with you or does a workshop, you have a certificate or professional development points, or some states still use CEUs. You have an opportunity to give. I don't have an opportunity to give credit or a credential, so I give digital badges. So I have a series. That's what these are up top. These are all digital badges that I built in P2PU. So these are digital badges that indicate your progression in the community. And that's another talk for another day, but it's a way to play with digital badges. So once again, the ORMS model, all the stuff that we just talked about, it's built online in this classroom, in this Google site. I have all the modules here. So if you want to learn more about online content construction or collaborative inquiry or multimodal tutorials, if you go into one of the sections, for every single one of all 5 modules, I have Digging Deeper is a lecture from me. These are lectures that I give to my students. You have readings and videos associated with it, and then if you want to get involved in the activity, if you'd like to know more, if you'd like to test this in your building with your teachers or with your students, I'd love to come on out. I have digital badges associated with it. I'm interested in how the badges affect motivation and affect what students and teachers are doing. And I'm also interested in, do real teachers care about digital badges? As we're speaking about this, are some of you sitting there saying, I could care less about what this guy has to say? Or is it intriguing? That's what we need to know as a research community. So once again, here's our back channel. The MOOC that I just indicated is here for you to check out. It's there, it's open, it's online, it's always there for you. You know how to get in touch with me. By all means, please get in touch. Tell me if it's of interest to you. Tell me if you could care less. Tell me if you want to know more. I, as a researcher, want to know more about what different parts of this mean to different people. In terms of the tools, all of the tools are here for you to check out and use and play with. Some of them have links to my tutorials. Some of the stuff that doesn't have a tutorial, I need to get my students cracking on it. And then, probably of most important, tools repository. Please remember that this is here for you. That's just a blog post talking about it. This is here for you. We have tutorials over here on the left, down at the bottom, on everything that you possibly could want to know, and it's always being updated. So if you use Chrome and Chromebooks, there's links to help you. Android, there's links. iPad Essentials, all of these we're constantly populating. And that is there for you. It's a website that's open and online and free. The ORMS MOOC, this ORMS class is open and online and free. It is a support for you. And obviously my blog is there, and that's open and online and free. And that stuff is all there. And it is there, and it will early, because in 5 minutes we wrap up and this ends. And I don't want the discussion or the learning to end. I want to provide opportunities for us to continue this discussion and dialogue, and provide opportunities for you to revisit the information later. So with that being said, any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
On Storify, can you log in what's put on there, or can students add their own things? Is that how you do it?
We had a question about Storify. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Storify, it's a great tool. What you can do is a student can go in and they can do a search and they can, let me show you. They can basically go in and select content that they want to add over. And so that's the challenge with Storify, is if they look for something and it's on a social network, they can find it. So for example, let's say I wanted to create one. If you've created movies, if you've done some digital production, you've seen this sort of, over here is like your story and your timeline, over here is your search results and everything else. So I can have Google+, SoundCloud, Storify, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and add tons of other stuff. But if I go to Twitter and I search for freedom, anything that anybody has ever said about freedom is over here. The good, bad, and the ugly. So all the unsavory stuff. So if Anonymous Squirrel's over here saying things, it's going to pop up. Now you can limit this. I can say, okay, I only things by me. So I can see my tweets and tweets about me yesterday. You drag it over. So if you have a Twitter chat with your students and you want to hand select tweets that you like, you can add them over. If I want to go on and say I want to see videos about cats, I can add them over. Then the nice thing is you can also go in, you can add text in between. So you can go in and tell a story using social media. So I can search all sorts of content over here, online content, add it in over here, and tell my own story. My recommendation is, this is a really nice way if you want to do like a prior reading activity or a prior knowledge activity or a pre-reading activity, and you want to let your students think about content before you read a story. If you want to do something after a story, if you've just read Call the Wild, and then after your students have read and talked about Call the Wild, you want to have them talk about, you know, violence. You can create a Storify. You can go online and see what people are saying about violence or what they're saying about civilization, and say, we read what Jack London had to say about Call the Wild. Well, let's see if violence, or let's see if civilization or the law of Club and Fang still has relevance online. Curate this list. So it's a very powerful tool. It's a way to archive and curate and tell a story. One caveat to the whole thing is you are using online informational text. So the good, the bad, and the ugly that you normally would find online, your students would have access to if they're creating their own. If you create yours, then hopefully you know not to put bad words on from the screen in front of your kids. Other questions?
I'm afraid we're going to have to call it a morning here. Let's give Ian a round of applause. I thought he was fantastic.
Once again, I thank you all for being there. I thank you for letting me come on out. I think that you are walking down a new initiative and terribly important. I thank you for the opportunity to try this. You know, the belief that we could try to have a presentation that was one day online, because I think for our needs, that's terribly important. We have to figure out what makes sense and what we gain or lose. But please continue the discussion. Please continue the dialogue. I'm here for you. At any point, get in touch. The materials and resources are online there for you, but I'm always here and available for you. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your sessions today.
All right, thank you.
Bye all.
Have fun at the trampoline park.
I know, I'm going on the trampoline.
All right, bye.
Bye.